discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
This snippet from the new season of Talk Lately with Monty about Jennifer Holliday.
Anyway, let's get back to well, what I wanted to say is that I can understand 100% where Jennifer Holliday is coming from, and that's sort of kind of where my 20% came from. When I basically came out and said who I voted for, I received a lot of backlash. Even on my own talk show, which comes on every Monday from 5 to 7 p.m., I was called a coon. So, okay, yeah, shout out for the plug. But yeah, someone actually, they told CJ Bernie that I was a coon, and that really hurt me. I've been called everything.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Now we're talking with Mervin A Born Jr.
and Lolita E. Walker,
where you get it from a man's
and a woman's perspective. Hey, and welcome to Now We're Talking this week with Marvin A Born and Lolita E. Walker.
Hey everybody, welcome back.
Welcome back. We've had such phenomenal weeks, right?
Yes, definitely. It's been a great week.
When we started off, our first show was on fear. And people are still talking about that. So that's just so exciting to hear. Yeah. We've had so many amazing guests. Yes. And today is no different. So today, it's week 4, and we are talking business building. The business of medicine. So we have a great panel for you today that we're so excited to talk to. But first things first, how was your week?
It was a great week. It was a busy work week, but extremely productive. I've been in a positive space this week. I'm feeling good, looking good.
That's what I'm
saying. The show's going to be great tonight. We got great guests lined up, and I'm ready to go. I'm excited.
I am too. I feel like we're still living on, Alan was here last week from Momentum Advisors, and I feel like we're still living on that class of 99 excitement, 20 years, Morgan State.
Why not keep it going?
Why not keep it going? So one of our guests tonight, we'll introduce him later, but it's class of 99 too. So
that's right.
Super exciting. Okay, so your win last week. We always start off with wins. So those of you new to the show, welcome. We're so happy that you're here. Bookmark us for every Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. right here on Now We're Talking Facebook. We're also on YouTube, Be Exposed Radio. We're also back on Facebook at Be Exposed Radio's site. And where am I missing? BeExposedRadio.com. Okay, so we are everywhere, and we're so excited. We ask you to join us on a live chat. Join us for questions, for concerns, for comments, where you think we went wrong. We have a full agenda for you today. So, wins. We always start off with wins for this week. What you got?
Yeah, so my weekly win, if I had to pick one, I implemented a daily wins conversation with my kids. And I got that idea from you and your book, The Intersection of You and Change. And basically, it's funny because the first time I asked my son, so what was your win today? He said, what do you mean? And then I had to explain to him, it's something positive that happened for you or to you today, something good that happened to you today, something that you accomplished today, something that you can be proud of, something that you could be happy about. And he just, jumped right into it. He was like, oh, okay, and did it. And that's a big deal for in my household. But both my kids tend to, sometimes it's real easy to point out the negative stuff.
It's very easy.
And unless you pry, you don't get to the positive stuff. So I feel good about it. I think it's something that I want to keep going with them and do it at least mentally for myself as well.
Absolutely. And I think as you transition into this wonderful world of small wins, one of the cool things is really writing it up so that at the end of the month, the celebration is all of the accomplishments that you've had throughout the month. I think one of the things for me and Walker that we do is initially when we first started it, I would say eating a slice of pizza, are you sure that's your win? So I think it's now not even challenging. I mean, I was winning. Why are you judging my win, right? So now it's not even asking a question. It's, if he believes it's a small win, then it's a win.
If it's stuffed crust, that's a win.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, right? Well, now we both don't eat cheese. He doesn't eat cheese. I haven't eaten cheese in years, but he doesn't eat cheese, so he's all out.
That hurts.
Did it hurt your heart?
It hurts me.
Oh, so I love that. So my small win is actually you are the third person this week. I posted a picture of my son doing his small wins board on my personal page last week, or it might have been earlier this week. But you're the third person to tell me that they're implementing it in their household, and so that feels so good.
Make you feel?
Oh, it feels so great. Just to know that somebody sees, one, what I'm doing as value added, but two, to see the value add that it could have inside of their own homes. So even when I have it in the intersection of you and change, I think I call it a gratitude board inside of the book. But it does talk about consistently what are your small wins, what are you grateful for today, what did you accomplish, exactly what you were saying. So with that, it definitely is a family event. Yeah. So even on mine, if we have a guest in the house, they're writing up a win. It's like they're part of it.
See, I didn't even think about that.
And it's a different guest all the time. Yep. So what is it before you go to bed? What is your win? And from my big sister in Alpha Kappa Alpha, I got a happy and a crappy. So with her children, she does what's one happy and one crappy every day. And I do what's two happies, one crappy, and a win. So we just, you know me, I got to jump over.
Yeah, I love it.
So that's my win, is that, some people are implementing it and finding some value. Hashtag BAM.
That's right.
That's what we do. All right, you want to talk about our guests today? I'm so excited.
Man, I'm super excited too. We have two guests today, and as you heard earlier, the topic is the business of medicine. And who better to talk about the business of medicine than two real live doctors? And just saying the business of medicine, it sounds a little odd because we typically don't think of medicine and business in the same sentence,
right,
the same breath, but they are extremely, connected to each other. But we also want to get into the questions that we have about the profession,
right,
that typically people don't have anyone to ask.
Right.
And a lot of times your only relationship with a doctor is with your own personal doctor.
Usually it's something bad.
Yeah, usually when you go there, it's about business, and you're not getting into, questions outside of your own personal well-being at that moment. But for those of you that have ever wondered, how do you become a doctor? If you have children that are interested in that profession, if you are yourself interested or considering that profession, why not ask a real doctor?
Absolutely.
Right? And, there are just so many areas within medicine that you can go into. The practice of medicine is not monolithic at all. There's something for everybody, very much like, law or engineering. There are many kinds of engineering. There's many kinds of law you can practice. There's something for everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about speaking to them directly, asking them the questions that are on my mind,
exactly, right,
fielding questions from the audience. And so we're really excited to have on the show tonight Dr. Justin Black, who is a doctor in anesthesiology. And he's been practicing for quite some time now, both on the West Coast in California and the East Coast in the DC metropolitan area. We'll get into detail with him about his journey into medicine and how he got to where he is right now. We also will have another guest who is in internal medicine and is right now practicing on the East Coast in the city of Baltimore, Maryland. And her name is Sayo Adeyemo, Dr. Sayo Adeyemo. And so we're really excited about getting her perspective. It'll be great to be able to talk to both a man and a woman entering the profession, and what their experiences are both in the profession, what they were in medical school, and just how they mentally got to the point where they decided, I want to practice medicine.
Yeah, I think some of the things that I would love to know, sometimes you go to the doctor and you don't know who the specialist is that you're asking for. So you don't know, I mean, we all know what we think we know, an anesthesiologist, but like the optometrist, the pulmonologist. Today, actually, I went with my mom to the doctor and they said, have you seen a pulmonologist? And I'm like, what the hell is that? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
See, that's what I mean.
yeah.
We need to get educated. I don't know what they all are. So if there's any questions out there about, hey, this is bothering me, who should I see? We might be able to ask our panelists today. I think the other cool thing is, you know, we're in the season of graduation, right? It's graduation time. And also out of high school. And so people are trying to figure out what type of careers they want. And if they're thinking about medicine at all, this is the perfect show for the child and the parents. Because now we can talk about, hey, how did you get in? How did you know you wanted to do it? What's some myths about, you know, being in medicine? And I think that our guests are going to be really strong and be able to tell us the real. So that's the beauty of this show, is that it's from a man and woman's perspective, but it also just gives you the real deal. We just want to flesh it out and just give it to everybody.
That's right.
I love it. Cool. So what else do we have going on? I love a couple of questions that I got last week about our show. One was just about franchising. There were a lot of questions that we had coming in about how to start a business. I got some after the show about starting a business. So I think that's pretty cool.
What's one thing that stood out to you, like in terms of being the most memorable thing from last week's show?
I'm telling you, they're the 3 jars. That's what I was talking about last week. Alan Boomer, who is the managing partner of Momentum Advisors. He's also a serial entrepreneur and a Morgan State grad. He has a couple of dry cleaners, Zips, that's in various locations, a number of fitness centers.
Right, Retro Fitness.
Yes. He's working on a number of different projects that's trying to, you know, develop further and further. I think he also talked about savings, investing, making sure you're investing with your money, making sure you start early with your children, but it's never too late. And I think the things I remember are those 3 jars. He said a savings jar that's clear that you can see through, an investing jar, and then a charity jar. So I said I was going to get on it. And I'm on it. I'm on it.
Good. No, that was my biggest highlight as well. Because I'm thinking about that for myself as well. How cool it would be to have something visual.
I know.
And you know, you're just used to doing so much juggling, but there are a lot of things that you can apply to you as well as your children. And if it's not applied the same exact way, that's okay.
That's okay.
You know, you just mold it to fit your situation, as long as it's getting done.
Okay. Cool. So do we have a couple more minutes, you think? Okay, good. So what are some of the questions that you were thinking about? I know you pushed some out, but for our 2 guests tonight.
So one question that I have, and I think a lot of people will have a similar question, is, you know, what got you over, what was your biggest fear in deciding to become a doctor and then actually throwing your hat in the ring in terms of getting into school? Because I venture to say, based on my conversations with people, especially once you get past a certain age, people start to talk about things they wish they would have done or things that they used to want to be. And so many people have said to me over the years, when I was younger, I wanted to be a doctor. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a doctor. When I was in college, I wanted to be a doctor. And then at some point, they decided, and
Too much school.
a lot. Well, and see that's what is often said is this idea of, I was just afraid that was too much school. But exactly how much school is it, right? A lot of people don't know. We make a lot of assumptions about what exactly it takes. Are you smart enough? That's another thing
that's a good one.
That a lot of people struggle with, is, am I intelligent enough, smart enough to for that challenge? So when we get back, we're going to get right into our first guest. And stay with us, because it's going to be really exciting. Please send your comments, your questions in through the live chat. We will be taking them and throwing them out as soon as we get them. So stay with us. We'll be back in a moment with Now We're Talking.
Bye.
Long live Pop. Y'all can go ahead and cry now. I'ma show these niggas what to do at one of your beats, man. I am Gas, by the way. Strong woman story should have been on CNN. Nobody knows what it's like being Gwen. Windows closed in the house, it ain't no CNN. Can't gain weight for years, she been being thin. Single mother, no help from the system. When they was giving out food stamps, she missed them. Birth certificate, baby daddy, she couldn't list them. But her son was so beautiful when she kissed him. Blame it on love, but nigga she could've died with. Destroyed the whole world and found out she was a side chick. The nigga loved his wife and it got hard to hide it. So when Gwen confronted him, he ain't even denied it. Her fault, depends on who you asking. She tried to be a stripper, but the tip out was taxing. Buying all the purses, trying to keep up with the fashion. And her mama hated babysitting with a passion.
Are you thinking about getting your GED diploma? Well, here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a number of pep talks that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You know that feeling? People look at you and don't believe in you.
You want some gentle encouragement.
Then you're on your way to your GED diploma and a better life.
But I know they're probably just a little bit nervous. You can find it in yourself to take that first step.
You can improve your future. You can do this. I know you can.
You need to start pushing yourself.
Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life. Hurry up. Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need to get your GED diploma, we've got a pep talk that's right for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and find free GED classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education, brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Are tuned in to BeExposedRadio.com.
So we were talking about critical thinking. So we definitely believe that critical thinking is one of the first things we need to start implementing, not just simply being told things. Or how about this? You know, we tend to listen to people who get assigned certain positions.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So when they have certain positions, we tend to think that it's truth attached to that because of their position, right?
Right.
Is that always the case, though?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
It's probably one of the biggest reasons we should be doing some critical thinking.
Yes, I agree. I definitely.
This is a Poverty ENT exclusive. Next stop, Texaco, strapped up, you already know. Fuck niggas hate, that's how it goes. Bros with me, yeah, it's time to go.
Hey, there's my son. You've been in your room all morning.
Hey, Dad.
Matt, what's wrong with your voice?
There is nothing wrong with my voice.
Oh, well, it's just sort of.
I have been playing my video games and electronic games for so many hours.
Uh-huh. Well, it sounds like it might be time for you to take a break, or...
Hello, Dad.
Susan?
I have been watching TV and text messaging all morning. Yay, electronics. Yay, yay, yay.
Guys, I think it's about time to get in the car and take a little trip. Maybe see some trees, some green things.
What are these green things you speak of?
This weekend, unplug. Take your family to the forest. There's nothing in the world like experiencing nature firsthand. Trees, paths, bluebirds, streams. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Get out to the forest and discover the wonders of nature with your family, just like Blue, Jewel, and the whole Rio flock.
Let the kids connect to their roots. It's going to be so much fun. Yeah!
Let's rock this jungle!
Yeah!
Fresh air.
What a glorious
clean water,
Woohoo! This is great!
and endless surprises.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
All right, yeah.
Welcome back to Now We're Talking with Mervin and Lolita.
Hey, happy Thursday.
We're talking the business of medicine this week. We have two medical doctors with us. One whose main practice is in internal medicine and the other whose main practice is in anesthesiology. So we're really excited to have two real live ones here.
I know, we can
send your
touch them in
questions
real.
to Now We're Talking, the Facebook page for Now We're Talking,
Yep.
or the Facebook page for Be Exposed Radio, and we'll make sure we get them in.
Absolutely, and thank you guys who have already joined. We have special shout outs today. So the first is Lucas. Thank you for joining. We have Jamie on, we have Latia on, and I see a couple of other people, Jacqueline and Delia. Thanks you guys for joining. So if you have any medical questions, get them in. Whether it's you that are interested in medicine, your child, or just the fact that what do all of these different medicines mean? So let's go on to intros. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
This is where the magic happens every Thursday from
Every
7 to 9.
Thursday.
Can you feel it?
I can feel it.
You can feel it? Okay. Excellent. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves, and let's start there.
Hello everyone, my name is Oluwasayo Adeyemo. I'm of Nigerian descent. Basically, I was born in Nigeria, raised in New York, then Philadelphia, and kind of have lived in most places in the country except for the West Coast, but mostly due to medicine. So I completed my undergrad at Bloomsburg University. I then went on to medical school at Tulane University School of Medicine, and then simultaneously completed my Master's of Public Health as well.
Oh,
at
yes.
Tulane University School of Tropical Health and Medicine. And then completed residency, a 3-year internal medicine residency at St. Louis University Hospital up in St. Louis. And then from there, I'm currently working in Baltimore at Sinai Hospital in Baltimore. And then actually coming this July, I will be starting my gastroenterology fellowship at Mount Sinai Hospital.
Make sure her mic is on, just.
Okay.
Let's make sure her mic is on.
Excellent. Okay. And because we're live, everything happens, so we just roll with it, and we love it. Okay, let us know if you can't hear anybody. All right, cool.
Excellent, wonderful. My name is Justin Black, and I'm from the very exotic West Baltimore, Randallstown, Maryland.
Yeah.
And, born and raised here in the county, as we say here. I went to Morgan State University, my proud alma mater, and graduated in 1999, as Lolita mentioned earlier.
20 years. We'll take
20
that.
years this year. We'll take it. We're doing well.
Absolutely.
From there, I went to George Washington University, GW, for a master's degree, and then for medical school. And then from there, as Dr. Adeyemo said, there's internship and residency. And I'll just clarify that because I know that that's confusing to people. We see it on television and hear about it, but internship is the first year out of medical school as you're a physician. You're a doctor now, but it's your first year of training, and it's typically done in either internal medicine or surgery, and I did internal medicine, and then subsequently after that you do more training, and that can be in specialties, and for me that specialty was anesthesiology. That was an additional 3 years, and I did that at the University of Chicago in Illinois. After that, I went into practice. I was in the Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area for almost 3 years. And then I moved back here to this area, working in the DC metropolitan area primarily, in Bethesda, Maryland, a little bit of Largo and some of the surrounding counties. And so now I'm in the area and still working.
So how did you choose your specialty? And I guess that's the same as me for engineering or you for law, but how did you choose your specialty, both of you guys?
Well, for myself, you know, medicine was kind of more of a concept than anything practical for me. I didn't really know doctors. I didn't see them up close, and so it was more of learning on the job, so to speak. So for me, what I was good at and what I did well in medical school, those are the things I kind of tailored myself and found I was good at understanding physiology, how the body works and how it processes medications that we give in pharmacology. And I was good at talking to people, but I didn't prefer to do that for more than a few minutes. So I found something, unlike our internal medicine doctors, that's your doctor who you're going to have a relationship with and keep returning to visit. In my specialty, we can be great friends for about 15 minutes. Then I'm not going to see
even
much.
that long, honestly.
I'm not going to see you much more after that. So really, I gravitated to what I thought my strengths were academically and what my interests were, and it's worked out for me.
And before you go, what we've talked about here from both of our books is literally following your strengths. Like when you know you're good at something, you really want to gravitate to that or leverage that in order to help you in whatever it is you're doing. So I'm just so excited to hear you say that. And before we go to break, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Hi, so should I introduce myself again or just?
Oh, I'm sorry, the medicine.
Okay.
How did you decide what medicine?
For me, it kind of runs along the same vein as what you said, really. In med school, I didn't really know any physicians either. And so in med school, we're kind of introduced to all types of medicine specialties in rotations. And so as you're going through your rotations, you're kind of figuring out what you like. You're kind of seeing the day-to-day life of the residents as well as the attendings and seeing what they're actually doing. And then you kind of get a feel for what you like reading, what you like studying, what you're, kind of interested in. So for me, it was a really hard decision though, because throughout my whole entire life, I've just kind of liked everything. And so I was able to eliminate like two things. I knew I didn't want to do surgery. And I knew I didn't want to do psychology, and everything else was kind of open.
Right. And so that just left you with like 100.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so I did 3 different what we call sub-Is, so sub-internships where we kind of practice being a resident and seeing how I did that. And I just really gravitated towards internal medicine and the breadth of it, and really being able to kind of get deep and dive in a bunch of medical problems, as well as being able to have a relationship with the patient and talk to them and kind of be at the bedside and explain things to them. So that's kind of why I chose internal medicine for those reasons.
Well, when we come back, I think let's get right into it. Let's ask some questions that everybody wants to know and then demystify a couple things about medicine. When we return, now we're talking with Marvin A. Born and Lolita E. Walker.
Be right back.
Exchange Radio Show every Friday 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every Saturday 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Real artists, real talk, real live on BeExposedRadio.com.
I was meeting with a friend yesterday, and I've gotten to the point where don't ask me a question because the truth is going to come out. And just don't do it.
If you ain't looking for the truth, don't come to me.
Don't do it because I can't hold my tongue. And she wants to be this stylist, boutique, but you're not doing anything in that nature, and I can't take you seriously if you're not doing those things. And I understood why people didn't take me seriously, because I found myself in somebody else's lane. I was good at what I was doing and what I wanted to be, but I wasn't doing it for me. So how can I ask you to take me seriously if I'm living in somebody else's shoes?
And nobody can do what you do, and I think that that's a big problem that people face now. Like, you see what somebody else is doing and you want to do that when that's not your lane.
That's not your lane.
That's not what you're supposed to be doing.
But it's popular, it's getting that person money, it's getting that person applause. Oh, I want applause. I want money. Let me stand over here behind them.
And then a lot of times people aren't honest with themselves either. Like, I was thinking earlier today, I've been woke for almost 2 days, so so you get honesty, and I was thinking, like,
The Artist Exchange Radio Show.
You're like an internal bleeder. Can't see your pain, but it can silently kill ya. So deeply wounded, but don't say a thing. Too afraid of what the people may say or think. So you just sit there and you suffer in silence. Your pride won't let you just uncover your secret. Don't wanna look weak in your image, it ain't worth losing. So you just act as if it's nothing happening. God sees you, and God hears you. Yes, God loves you. You're like an internal bleeder. Can't see your pain, but it can silently kill ya. Suicidal, depressed, but you won't say a thing. Too afraid of what the people may say or think. You feel alone even though the people surround you. Popping pills every night even though you know they can't solve it. The emotional pain, it just seems way too heavy. Your mind is racing, wanna scream, somebody help me.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Only in the forest can you see this. But nothing beats the moment you see that.
Cool!
That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. And you might just see this. Visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
4 seconds.
Are you on there? Just so we can make sure you answer the question. Hey, welcome back. So now we're talking with Marvin A Born and Lolita E. Walker. We have amazing guests with us tonight, and we were just talking before the break about how they determined exactly what their medical kind of, what do you call it? Concentration? Specialty was. So see, we're being educated as well. And so it's kind of cool, just as we would choose concentrations or specialties in college, like what gravitates you towards that. And we started talking about your strengths. Like what was the process of elimination? What did you know you didn't want to work on? And then what were you really strong at? So I know, Mervin, you had a question coming out. We have a question here on the chat. And then we want to get into some gender issues if they exist.
Sure. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about are about your fears. If you had any, deciding I want to be a doctor, I'm going to enter the medical profession, I'm going to take the MCAT, apply to medical school, because a lot of people, we were talking about it before you all came in, have said to me over the years, I used to want to be a doctor. Or when I was in college or when I was in high school, I dreamed about being a doctor. And then because of X, Y, and Z reasons, which typically are connected to some fear of something or some things, they change course. Mm-hmm. So did you all go through that in any way?
Yeah, I think it's very common, particularly as I mentioned, you know, I didn't have exposure to physicians, so it was very much an other type of thing. It was, there wasn't a lot of guidance or connectivity to it, so which was something that we later addressed at Morgan State with the infrastructure and trying to have programs to help guide you. But absolutely, I think it's a very common feeling.
I definitely agree. I mean, for me, I know it was a very personal fear. I started undergrad, and, you know, being a biology major, a group of friends and I, we all said we wanted to do medicine. It was a fact for sure. And then slowly but surely, because of the prerequisites we had to do, so biology, organic chemistry, certain math classes, people started kind of dropping out slowly but surely. And then after undergrad, you know, I did well, but I was just like, do I want to spend that time? Do I want to you know, kind of deal with all the things, the financial aspect as well, as student loans. And I didn't go into medicine for about another 3 years.
Interesting.
And it was really, I actually went into research instead. So I worked at UPenn for a few years with research. And it was really my mom, actually. She was, because I kept saying it over and over, like, I want to be a doctor. And she was like, well, why aren't you a doctor?
Right.
And I'm like, well, I don't know. And so, you know, kind of speaking to what he said about not knowing doctors, so she would go to her physicians and say, my daughter wants to be a doctor. What can she do?
I love it.
And so actually it was one of her gastroenterologists, funny enough, that kind of told her, well, give her my cell phone number. Let me talk to her. And so this lady, she just, would call me every once in a while and say, hey, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? I'd been out of school for a few years, so she kind of told me about like baccalaureate programs and things like that you can do to kind of take prerequisites in medicine.
Yeah.
And so I did one of those, and everything from there was just kind of written out, basically.
Again, going back to just how common this is, and even hearing our conversation, we're throwing out terms that are probably a bit foreign to a lot of people. Baccalaureate programs and even gastroenterologists and anesthesiologists. It really is a thing where the not knowing can be prohibitive and really you have so many opportunities to turn yourself away. The prerequisites, the school curriculum, and if you have a bad class or semester and then you convince yourself, oh, I must not be good enough for this. And that's just not the case. It's truly misleading. But without having guidance and having someone directing you a bit, you can easily become derailed, and that's how you end up with so many people saying, I used to want to be a doctor. Fortunately, numbers are improving, particularly in minorities, of people who are, breaking through those fears. I had one in my journey. It really went from a bit of a childish want to be a doctor, and it had to mature. When I was a kid, when 8 years old, that's what I said, I want to be a doctor. Okay. And that was fine, and that carried me through grade school and high school. And then in college, people start asking, okay, so if you want to be a doctor, what are you going to major in? So I don't know, so I'll do what you tell me to do. So I majored in chemistry, but very commonly most people were in biology or something like that. It seemed to make sense. We find out later that may not in fact be the case, or even certainly not necessary. You can pretty much major in anything that you want, and you simply have to meet a few required classes to be entered. So you don't have to be a wizard at science or of math, which comes up quite a bit. You really don't. You just have to be determined and focused. So I was convinced when I had fears that I wasn't good enough, actually by a doctor that I went to who, at my age, at that point I was in college, I realized he wasn't that good. And I saw how he was revered and how he was successful, but it was something very clear to me that had occurred that I said, well, if this guy can do it, then I guess I can do it after all. And so that was a little bit of a confidence boost for me, which I think I needed because I was really getting ready to derail and become one of those people who told stories of how I used to want to be a doctor.
I think I'm going to test this out. So Lucas and Melissa, thank you for letting me know you couldn't really hear me. So I'm going to move it up a little bit, and then I'm going to ask this question. One of the things, Dr. Justin, that you talked about was, giving back to the school. So helping others who might not know enough to even know what to ask. So tell us a little bit about what you did and why it was important and how you did that.
So I didn't do anything. Okay. A group of us did some things, and our class, and I say maybe a year or two ahead of us, we really had a group of very focused and dedicated people.
Yeah.
And many of us ended up going into professions of medicine, pharmacy, dentistry, optometry, and what we realized was that while we made it through and got there, we could have been assisted greatly by more resources along the way. I remember one of our classmates had an older sister who was in medical school, and only for that contact could we even figure out what we needed to do as far as taking the MCAT, which is an admissions test for medical school. So what we ended up doing, a group of us, and Dr. Sophia Rahman, or Dr. Sophia Rahman Scott, who's another one of our colleagues and classmates, got together at Morgan State in the, I guess it was a newly formed School of Computers, Mathematics, and Natural Sciences, and set up, I believe it was called the Pre-Professional Leadership Advisory Council. And what we were able to do just through our network of former classmates was get together and set up a program that would help guide students who had an interest in this. Because as a freshman, students walk on campus and say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a pharmacist. But there was no infrastructure on campus to help guide them, to say, well, this is what you need to do, this is what you should apply for, these are some things you may be interested in. And so over the period of time, I think we were beginning that around 2012 or so, and we had an interest, and I think we had about 50 or 60 students show up. And I believe that last fall there was over 300 students that showed up. And you know, it's kind of taken on, and other people are running the program and putting the sweat into it at this point. But it's been helpful because we've started to improve the numbers. We have a great university filled with smart kids, but we weren't putting out people into professional schools. And now we're catching up, and it's you know, a universal problem amongst a lot of the historically black colleges. There just wasn't infrastructure. And so, you know, our black students weren't becoming doctors not because they weren't capable, but and a lot of times it was because they just didn't have the access and the guidance that they needed to persevere through it. So that was something we helped establish, and I was very happy to be a very small part of that, but it was wonderful.
And the other issue along those lines that I became aware of is that they may be directed to be doctors, but to be PhDs.
Absolutely.
Because most of your professors at universities are PhDs. So they tend to direct you or steer you towards what they know. And
well, that's, again, it's about proximity. I was a chemistry major. We had plenty of PhD, doctor, so-and-sos in our department who did just that. You know, sometimes the ceilings are self-imposed, and we say, I'm a PhD. Maybe I also wanted to be a physician at one point, but I'm not. What makes you think that you could? And so, you know, not necessarily intentionally, but that's a real world issue that can come up. And so people typically in efforts to, you know, support what they've made in their own life decisions will encourage you to follow suit and say, well, I'm a organic chemistry doctor. Maybe you can do that or should do that, as opposed to listening to what the student is telling you. Like you mentioned, you kept coming back to that same theme. I want to be a doctor. So
let me ask you, Dr. Adeyemo. Am I saying that right?
Adeyemo.
Adeyemo. I missed the M. Got it.
Okay.
Adeyemo. So tell us, because after the break, I really want to get into gender, because they're absolutely between, you know, I'm an engineer by trade. Mervin is a lawyer by trade, and all of these are kind of technical, I'll say technical fields that always have challenges, but I'd like to talk specifically about gender. But before we get to that, can you tell us a little bit about maybe like one of the hurdles that you had to jump over? Not necessarily just being a woman, but whether I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I have to take too much math. You shared some, but what's another hurdle that somebody might be going through that you could talk to us about?
Well, I mean, to your point, I think the number one thing you need to become a doctor is determination, because you will run across so many hurdles. One of the things I didn't know was how expensive it actually is to become a physician. I mean, between the cost of student loans, the cost of the MCAT, the cost of the exams that you take, I guess you still can't hear me, the cost of the exams that you take in med school themselves are very prohibitive for families who can't really afford it. And so, you know, financially it was a hurdle. Also, you know, to speak to your point also as far as minorities, you know, when you're in med school, you're kind of surrounded by people who don't really look or talk like you, who aren't from the same areas that you're from. And so kind of having, when I went to med school, my class out of I think we were about 250, 260, there was only four African Americans. Wow. And so, and that was just my year, you know, so there was, I think, 3 African Americans in the year before us, and then 4 in the year after, and then 5 by the time I was a 4th year. There was 5 in the first year class. And so not being surrounded by people that kind of are from where you're from also provides its own hurdle, you know, because you don't also want to seem like you're the person that got in but wasn't supposed to be here, you know. They let you in because of the way you look instead of because of your own merits. And so that was definitely also a hurdle, that kind of internalization of the imposter theory, like, you know, do I really belong here? Even after you made it, even after you pass all the exams, even after you do well, you know, that self-doubt also, exactly. And so that was also for sure definitely a hurdle.
So Mervin and I on this show always talk about the support. You know, like the support that you have around you really makes a difference. The folks you can lean on, mentors, sponsors. And you even just said that when you don't have a lot of people who look like you, where is that support? You don't feel like there's people there that's holding you. What did you do to seek mentorship and guidance from both of you guys? So feel free to start, and then Dr. Justin will come right. I
mean, for me, you know, I think it would have been the path to medicine. There's a lot of, I guess, it's almost like a club, you know, and so there's a lot of things you don't know until you're upon it or doing it. And if you have somebody in medicine, a physician that you know, a mentor in that capacity that kind of says, hey, well, you know, in a year you have to kind of start thinking about this, you know, that way it kind of preps you before you get to that stage. So just talking to people, really, not being scared to put yourself out there, go to meetings. There's different associations. There's the SNMA, there's national associations, there's national student associations that you can get involved with that kind of help you and can guide you, and they can pair you up with mentors. But also just not being scared to speak. You know, if you're a kid and you tell your pediatrician, hey, I want to be a doctor, you know, they will help you, but you have to be serious, you know, because of course everyone is so busy. But if you are kind of reaching out to them, talking to them, asking for their email address, asking for whatever tips you can get, I think putting yourself out there and being your own advocate is really what you need in order to get the information you need. And then also, when you get to school and med school, don't isolate. You got to make friends and talk to people so you can get information that you otherwise wouldn't have access to. So.
No, thank you. So when we're back, we'll start with you, Dr. Justin, and you'll answer the question just on mentorship, how you jump into that, and then we'll get to gender. And I'm going to work on this microphone. Thank you very much, Melissa and Luis.
All right.
Now we're talking. Be right back.
You are now listening to Just a Bit Outside, the sports radio show at BeExposedRadio.com. Come join us every Monday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on YouTube, Facebook, or BeExposedRadio.com.
So we had a lot of things going on.
Mother's Day, Major League Baseball, pink bats, pink outfits.
Yeah. They certainly did the mothers good. They don't show them justice. Like Jimmy said, the pink bats, cleats, all types of pink highlights in the major leagues. The Orioles were swept by the Kansas City Royals.
Wah, wah.
The Kansas City Royals. Thank you, Eric. Kansas City Royals they're like one of the worst teams in the Major League Baseball right now. Yeah, so that was a little tough.
Yeah, so the Orioles no longer have the top record. It belongs to the Washington Nationals now.
Yeah, so that was tough. So hopefully they'll get back on track with the next series. Maryland, we got some local sports, collegiate to report. The Maryland lacrosse. Let's shout out the Maryland lacrosse team. They are in the NCAA tournament, and Hey,
this is Mark, just a bit outside on BeExposedRadio.com. Listen to us every Monday, 8 to 10 p.m. on Facebook and on YouTube.
Far into this unknown to find who we really are. Crash into something new. Take a break from my broken heart. Talk with the hip, tell me you like. I think we should go for another round. Baby, try not to say too much. Let your love come down. If you wanna rule, there's some rules you gotta live by. Live by. Stay true to your cool, make a move. Don't wait on nobody else. And if it feels like a melody, sing a song, be my radio. There, I'll follow you back. Let the night unfold. I can tell that she can't get enough. Show enough, she couldn't get the feels off from me. Oh no, she couldn't get the feels off from me. Got your hands till we dance in the dark. Show enough, she couldn't get the feels off from me. We do whatever you like. Get the feels off from me. Oh no, she couldn't get the feels off from me. So let's slide, you and me alone, to find who we really are. something new. I got ballet banging up the car. Tell me you kiss, tell me you lie. I think we should go for another round.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Hey, and welcome back to Now We're Talking with Marvin A Born and Lolita E. Walker. We are so excited about our panel tonight.
Yes,
right?
yes, we're having a very spirited discussion so far. I have like 1,000 more questions, but send your questions in, please. Don't be shy. Everything you ever wanted to ask a doctor, ask tonight. We have an anesthesiologist here and we have an internist here, and they are a wealth of knowledge and they're keeping it all the way real. So please send the questions in.
Dr. Adeyemo, right?
Yes.
Yes, all right. So we left off with some great nuggets that you gave us. And now, Justin, I'd love to know just about mentorship, sponsorship. How did you just jump right in?
Well, you know, to finish a bit of what we ended with, you know, the theme there was don't isolate yourself.
Right.
And there are so many options. You mentioned the SNMA, which is the Student National Medical Association. This is a minority association, so there's groups like that you can get involved with for that kind of contact. I was at GW. I was in Washington, D.C. at George Washington University, and out of the graduating class of, I think, 150 to 60, I was the only black male who graduated in that class. And as a result, I took that opportunity to expose myself and learn as much of the other things that I could. You know, I practiced Ramadan with Dr. Shafkat Anwar, and I was fortunate enough to do that in the winter when we could break fast at 5 p.m. as opposed to now when it's, you know, maybe 8:30 p.m.
Right.
But that was a great experience, and there were so many other resources just in the diversity of our class that I think was really fortunate for me to be able to expose myself to, and makes me a little better as a practicing doctor now, because I have a little more exposure, a little more understanding of different people from around the world and cultures and things. So you can get mentorship. It's there. By the time you get yourself into medical school, even if you're shy, you've got enough self-drive that you can reach out and find it. It's not hard to find. And minorities, blacks in medicine, are not plentiful, but they're close and they're accessible. So simply, you know, just speaking up a little bit, your phone will ring, you know, and people will reach out to you. So not difficult, but I think there's a lot of value in, as you said, not isolating yourself, because you want to be as well-rounded and well-versed as possible to be the best you can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about demystification? So when Mervin and I were preparing for this segment, one of the big things we talked about is all of the myths that surround medicine and doctors. So what's one of the big myths that you'd like to dispel right now for our audience?
Are you rich?
You're on your way there. You're on your way there.
No.
For the record, you look rich. You look very opulent.
Make it till you make it, right?
That's a big one. I think from very social things, it's that, you know, all doctors are super wealthy, and somehow that bleeds into your lack of interest in taking care of people fully. You're just there for money.
Well, the Huxtables lived in $1 million house.
Well, sure. The Huxtables didn't do us any service in that respect. It looked like it was a very glamorous lifestyle, but it's not always that way. I think maybe more socially impactful is the concept that we as doctors affect the cost of healthcare.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Because we don't.
So in terms of the percentage of control you all have over medical costs, what is that percentage? It's a zero.
I don't know if the microphone is.
I hope you all heard that. I hope you all heard that.
In fact, so as an anesthesiologist, what I do most days is I take care of patients coming in for surgical procedures. And my role is to put you to sleep, which everyone can relate to. I like to say my role is to wake you up, because that's equally as important. And then we manage pain control and bodily functions and things like that. I have no concept of what
you cost
a bill to a patient is for what I've done that day. It's completely out of my hands. It's part of the healthcare system. If you work for Hopkins or Maryland or, you know, whatever the case is, they're doing the billing. And, you know, it's really a not an empowering position. I don't know what they're being paid for my services. And then whatever they're being paid, they take their portion and then they pay it down to me. So, you know, I can keep the lights on. I'm not, you know, crying poverty. But to say that what I do or choose, it's not up to me. And frequently, you know, those healthcare costs that are going higher and higher, as doctors, we're looking around saying, why is this happening?
I mean,
we don't
we
need
advocate
this.
against
We don't
it
want this.
actively.
But now you're forced to use this material, use these medications, and the cost is going. And so we're not in control of that. So, you know, we share in that frustration that all patients share, which is, I need something done. I need health care. I need service. I can't afford this. Why is it so expensive? And we wonder the same thing.
Because you also need doctors.
Absolutely.
You know, they're doctors of different specialties. And you also need doctors in your life as well.
And so I'll kind of approach it from a two-tier portion. So like personal finances. So basically you become a physician after multiple years of training, right? And so you go to 4 years of undergrad, and then you do, a lot of people nowadays do masters, and then you do 4 years of medical school, and then you do residency. Residency can be anywhere from typically 3 years up until 7 to 8 years for like a neurosurgeon, right? And so by the time you're done all of that, you're in your early 30s to 40s basically. And so that whole time you've been in school, getting trained, not really making any money, but accruing debt. Because med school is very, very expensive. And so
you're talking 15 to 20 years of debt building, essentially.
And so you may come out with a quote unquote nice paycheck, but you still have, you know, for me, for example, my student loans accrue about $80 worth of interest a day. And so just trying to pay that off is prohibitive, really. And then you're starting from later in life than many of your counterparts who, by the time they're maybe in their mid-30s, have a house or have, you know, different things that you are just kind of starting to develop now that you're out of school. Not saying that should discourage you, because medicine is awesome, but it's a reality.
Well, it's also a trap for you financially. It's difficult. There's a delayed gratification. You spent your 20s going to school while your friends may have been going to work
or partying
or having fun. The point is, by the time you finally make it and you finish your training or your school, you have been driving, you know, if you're lucky, a beat up car. You've been renting a place, and you're looking at your friends who you're like, you didn't go to school, you didn't do all this, and they're living in a house and have, you know, some of the things that you've foregone. And it's a trap, because as soon as you finally start making a few dollars, instead of being more responsible with it, as you know, Alan Boomer, your prior guest, would advocate for, you go out and you start trying to play catch up immediately. And you know, you see guys that come in, you can tell the new doctors, I can tell them, you can see them in the parking lot. You're like, oh, nice car, Bubba. So, you know?
And I will say, a lot of companies actually target new doctors for that reason. So when I was graduating, my medical school actually flew in a financial advisor for us. And they said the things you need to get once you graduate are a financial advisor and an accountant. Because they will, you know, loans target you, car companies target, because they know how much you're quote unquote making, but they don't understand, you know, they're not getting involved in your loans. They just know that you have a lot of zeros. You've had this delayed gratification where you haven't spent any money because you haven't had any money. And now, you know, you're kind of, you have
financial advisors target you too.
They do.
Financial advisors,
they really
the only
do.
time I ever had a financial advisor come and speak to me regarding medicine was when I was in training. They don't come and talk to seasoned doctors, and there's a reason.
They buy you dinners because you're broke. So it's like, it's a whole thing. So that's the personal finance portion. And then I can't tell you, so
when we're back,
sorry.
I hate to cut you off, but when we're back, because we're going all in. When we're back, we'll talk gender.
Like, the one thing you always gotta remember is people gonna try to project their insecurities onto you. But you can't listen to what them niggas saying. You gotta get out here and do your shit regardless. You gonna do what you love for the rest of your life anyway. So why not turn that shit into something? Be a man of everything you say. This shit bigger than me, man. like, yeah, I'm good and all that, but you know what I mean? I ain't shit without y'all. So no matter what you up to, just go hard.
Whoa. The moment my son saw a redwood tree.
It's huge!
Is the moment I knew that for him,
You can't even see the top of that thing!
even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Hey, and welcome back to Now We're Talking. Thank you so much for engaging. If you have any questions, you can definitely send them right here on Facebook, on Now We're Talking, on Be Exposed Radio, BeExposedRadio.com, YouTube.
Right, yeah.
We're everywhere. So thank you so much for the tips. Thanks for being engaged. If you have any medical questions, just jump right in. We have Dr. Justin Black and Dr. Adeyemo.
Yes.
So this is going to be great. I'm going to be a professional by the end. I'm going to be a professional. So this is great. And you were just chatting right before we left.
Yeah. So I was actually talking about my second point as far as financials go, which is...
And we were talking about, for those of you that are just joining us, demystifying myths, common myths or misconceptions that people have about doctors or medicine.
Yes. Right. And so the second... I guess myth is that we make money off of the treatment that we give a patient. And so so as an internist, I actually work in the hospital. So I'm the physician, I'm a hospitalist, which is a type of internist, which is basically the doctor you see when you come into the hospital. So not your primary care doctor that you go to the office and see. If you get admitted to the hospital, you'll see me, and that's the only time. I don't really leave the hospital. And so, you know, I'll recommend an imaging scan or a medication, and I'll have patients say, well, no, because I don't really need that. You just want to make more money if I get more imaging. I don't see a dollar from any of that. When I make a recommendation, it's because I genuinely believe you genuinely need this in order for me to treat you adequately. And so to the point that I see when a patient comes in and they're in financial straits. I've had patients cry. I've had, you know, people's children come and say, I don't know how I'm going to be able to afford this for my mother or for my father. And I sympathize with that. I really do empathize. And a lot of physicians do. And so there are physician advocate organizations all over the country actually trying to lobby in Washington to get healthcare costs down. So instead of we make money from charging you more, we're actually trying to help healthcare cost less because we actually are the front lines. The person in the office creating the bill does not see you, does not have that conversation with you, does not pass you that tissue when you're crying about the health bill. We do. And so we really, really do work as much as we can to try to get your bill down, you know, and we even to the point where I'm trying to prescribe stuff, I'll call the pharmacy and say, hey, what's the copay for this? You know, and then I'll try to give you a medication that's a less copay or a generic medication. And so that's a big myth that really frustrates me sometimes.
Just to put a cap on it, you know, many physicians are salaried.
Yeah, we are.
They are going to make the same amount of money for that day, whether they see you or don't, take care of you or don't. You know, so it's a misconception, and it can lead to patients being their own worst enemy at times because of that anxiety and fear that, no, you're trying to take advantage of me, so I'm going to leave the hospital, or I'm not going to take that medication, or it's not that important, and you really miss out on some things. But you know, we're talking about misconceptions, so that's another one.
And I just want to make one more misconception. So as a physician in the hospital as well, I've had patients say that, you know, the doctor comes around in the morning and sees you, the anesthesiologist may come around in the morning and see you, and you may not see them again in the hospital that specific day. That does not mean they don't care. That does not mean that they don't know what's going on with you. I know if my patient coughs too much, I hear about it. How many times you've had a bowel movement that day, I hear about it and I know about it and I'm actively working on it. but I also have a panel of patients, and so I don't necessarily have a chance in the day to come back and see you twice or 3 times or 4 times. And so I know that, you know, sometimes patients feel almost neglected by their physicians because of that, but it's not for lack of caring. It's just because we are taking care of you as well as multiple other patients as well, and we can't necessarily spend as much face time as even we would like. You know, I'd like to sit in the room and talk to you for 30 minutes and, you know, really get a real good rapport with you, but there's just not enough time to kind of do that. But it does not negate at all the kind of care we're providing, because I know every single thing that happens to you during the day in the hospital. And so
there are competing interests. So if we, just to kind of play in on our theme here, the business of medicine, there are competing interests that are contradictory in the hospital. So you have your internist whose interest is to help you and take care of you. There are people in the hospital whose job is to get you out of the hospital as quickly as possible. There's someone else whose job is to get you enrolled in insurance if you don't have it, so that the hospital can recuperate and recover some money there. There, you know, there's so many different things. This truly is a industry, a business, and as physicians, we are being marginalized to a point where the actual healthcare and hands-on part of taking care of people is not the focus anymore. You know, it's about the business, how to properly bill for this or code for that, to utilize this and to utilize that. There's a whole CMS, Congressional Medical Service, which regulates how much everything's going to be, who's going to do it, what you're allowed to do. So actually being a physician is, you're not the top man in the building.
And is that because of the
profit? I'm sorry.
Right. Is that because of the profit model in that some hospitals, many hospitals, are actually for-profit corporations as opposed to nonprofit corporations or charities?
I certainly think that that's a part of it, and I also believe that it's more complicated than I'm able to actually process and comprehend. Healthcare, obviously, as you've seen politically and socially, is a monstrous part of the economy and revenue back and forth for very, very varied many people in different aspects of industry. So we always hear about big pharma and pharmacology and their influence, you know, but it goes well beyond that. And your healthcare provider and health insurance, which I always find a bit amusing when people say, I love my health insurance, it's great. And I just think to myself, that's because you haven't gotten sick yet. Because when you get sick, truly ill, and need something really involved, you start finding out quickly that your insurance doesn't cover that at all, or will find a way not to, because again, there's competing interest. Someone's job at the insurance company is to find reasons and ways not to insure you.
Right. Or to not cover the $300,000 surgery you just had.
And I think most people can relate to that. They may not have had a major surgery, but they've been told they couldn't go see this doctor without seeing that doctor first, or couldn't get this medicine without a special approval. And so that's a small case of it, and it just balloons and gets bigger and bigger as you move into things.
So we talked a couple of things, which I'm really excited about. So we talked demystifying a couple of things that come to the forefront. We talked fear. We've talked having a network, using your voice, getting out there. We talked being weary of the financial advisors that come, or the loan folks that come, people that assume your zeros but don't really have your best interest in mind. And that's really asking the questions to people about, hey, you're a seasoned doctor. Let me ask you, did this happen? Should I jump in? So we always love to leave our folks with nuggets. And on that point, we also are excited that we are a man and a woman's perspective, which we like to give. So talk to us a little bit about, you know, gender. How is it being a female in medicine?
Yeah, so being a female in medicine comes in quite a few different ways. So first of all, deciding to do medicine, right? As a woman, you know, like I said, all those years of being in school, those are really your formative years as a woman. Those are your 20s, your 30s. And it's a very demanding career path. And so, you know, where a lot of your friends may be getting married, kind of having babies, you're thinking, okay, when can I do that? Because I have to go to med school. And if I take out time in med school, that just makes this longer. Or internship. Can I really do that internship? I'm working 80 hours a week. There's no way I can do that. And then you're like, okay, maybe residency, but then there's only a certain amount of residents in each program. So if I take off time for maternity leave or take off 2 weeks, that puts the brunt on my co-residents, which I don't want to do. And so, you know, kind of to speak to that point, I'll say that in my residency program, by the time we graduated, finished our 3rd year residency, I believe there were about 4 of us that were married. None of the women had babies in my year. And in my year, about 10 or 11 of the guys had children, right? Because they don't actually have to take the time away from their career in order to kind of have that family life. And so, you know, I distinctly remember, as much as my mom was my advocate to become a physician, and she was in my corner the whole time, I distinctly remember a conversation where she was like, are you sure you don't want to be a nurse? And it was really because, not because, you know, not to take anything away from the nursing profession, it's just they have a little bit more time. They don't have to be in school or in training as long. And so from her perspective, you know, like as a woman wanting to become a grandmother and not take 20 years to become a grandmother, she was like, okay, so how does this portion of the equation work?
Girl, when are you gonna give me some babies?
Exactly. And so so that's one aspect of it. And then, you know, as far as
I could just right there, because just being a woman, let me move over right here. But just being
back up.
Even in corporate America, and I feel like exactly what you're talking about happens to women everywhere. Outside of medicine, anytime you have a really demanding job, something that takes your time away from home, for whoever it is, any single parent, but specifically for women who are, society puts you in this box of, you have to take care of the family, you have to be home to cook, you have to. And there's all of these pressures that come at you. There's all of this doubt that comes at you. There's all of this guilt that comes at you for really taking time for the things that you truly want. And so I'm getting really passionate about this because I talk about this all the time. But the notion of you to become a nurse and not a physician because of the time that is required for you being away from home is something that our girls deal with all the time. And what I want to say to our girls out there is, you don't need to settle. You can absolutely have it all. And I say that because some people are doubting, oh my gosh, there's so much time away. We can work on that. What's your goal? And then how are we going to surround ourselves with our village to help take care of home if that's a gap? Because sometimes it might not be a gap. It's somebody else's perceived gap.
And I mean, and that's the truth. And plenty of women have babies in med school and in residency, and they get married. And I mean, and they do it. I think part of the reasons more don't is because of that perception that, you know, they'll be judged, or they can't juggle it, or it's too hard, or, you know, there's always time to do it later. So there is that perception as well. But any woman, like woman that I've talked to who's an attending, which is an attending basically is a person who's completed training. And so they're super supportive. They're like, yeah, you can do it. We'll figure it out. And medicine in general is becoming more female friendly, I would say. I wouldn't say it's there all the way, but a lot of different programs and training institutions are becoming much more aware of that kind of difference. And so they have things in place and backups in place where if you need to take maternity leave, you don't get a real long maternity leave in training, at least. When you're done, that's different. But in training, you might get, you know, a couple of weeks, whatever your institution is able to spare. They'll do it because they understand that that's something that's needed, especially in today's day and age and in today's culture. And so,
all of this is true. All of this is true. I think there's another aspect. Historically, it is changing, but historically, we had the Socratic method, which is a bit of an abusive system of teaching. It was a teaching by demanding questions and almost shaming you for not knowing the information. And in that culture, there is a team approach, and I think a lot of the women going through, they get caught not wanting to let down the team. When you're in training, there is a finite number of you, and if one of you is out, you just have more of a burden for those that remain. And you know, this is legislated, but I know personally of certain groups that, for example, neurosurgery is notorious for this. Yeah. You only have 2 trainees per year. So if one of them goes out for months on maternity leave, your program is greatly at a disadvantage. And I know directly of people who, for that reason, never accepted women into their program. And that's illegal, but that's what they did. Yeah. So, that's one of the reasons you don't see that many women neurosurgeons. It's not because they're not capable or interested, it's because they're being marginalized a bit.
Okay, well, when we're back, we are going to get into it more and more, so thanks for being here, and we'll be back in a minute.
Stay with us. Now we're talking with Mervin and Lolita. We'll be right back. That was all.
Take a minute and listen to this flashback of the old school Bruja radio show.
Give her a second to answer that. Oh, can I had one more question for the cards. I'm going to think the question and just pull. Do you want a specific deck or do whatever you want?
And I'm going to do the same exact thing in a minute and silently ask.
Okay. A quick read.
Skirt, 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 skirt. Start, skirt, 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 start, start. I be up in the way. 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 Running on my face. Gucci guilty on my face. I be up in the way. 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 Bedroom phone ring, girl in t-shirt answers me. I get off on the way that she answers me. First time saw her, I knew she was the one for me. Ever since then, we've been vibing on some chemistry. It's just a matter of time. I know she feeling my vibe. I got the keys to the ride. She put her hands on my thigh. She got that look in her eye. SL what I'm riding. Royalty, call me highness. All day and overnighted. Cause it's crunch time when I'm grinding. This Adderall got me nauseous. Proceed with caution. Tired of lanes, I'm exhausted. Poppin' Zanny Zan, sipping out the faucet. I'm confused, don't know what I'm doing. Wait, what I'm doing? Got me going where the I'm going. Out of space, where I'm going. Wait, where I'm going. Wait, where I'm going. Out of space, where I'm going. Out of space, where I'm going. I'll be up in the way. 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 Running on my face. Gucci guilty on my face.
Business owners, need more customers? Offer fantasy sports contests and generate more sales. Restaurants, bars, hotels, auto dealerships, real estate offices. Whatever your business, fantasy sports contests can help you increase your sales and bring you more loyal customers. Visit Fanify.com or call 888-55-SPORT. Our software lets you customize contests fast and easy for your brand. That's right. Visit Fanify.com or call 888-55-SPORT. That's 888-55-SPORT or visit Fanify.com.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
The concept of specialty is out the window on television.
It's ridiculous.
Because what they actually have, like, residents or students doing what specialists and their bosses
People that
should be
train for
doing.
like 10 years do it.
And they're just like, oh, I'm just going to do
No,
something.
that's
Get out of here.
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
It's not like you see on TV.
I know firefighters.
It looks like we're back. Are we back?
we
Can
could
you
be.
can you
Stop
hear?
it.
Can you hear?
I can't hear anything. We might be on.
Are we
Hi,
live?
we're on.
back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Now we're
Welcome
talking.
back.
I'm not able to hear, so we are just live. So welcome back to Now We're Talking with Marvin A Born and Lolita E. Walker and our wonderful panelists that we have here. We are just getting all the way in on questions that we have. And I don't remember actually where we were because I so want to get into TV dramas.
Oh, yeah.
Well, then let's do it. But what I was just trying to add my male perspective into the female quandary, and it's a real problem.
Yes.
Women in medicine, which I know many, they're all remarkable, they're all wonderful because they really have had a different journey than men have.
Yeah.
And it is changing. our society's changing. We have a whole movement that is changing the social contract of what's acceptable for interaction.
Yep.
And it's in medicine as well, just not as quickly as I think most of us would like it to be. So when you see, women doctors, understand that they are truly remarkable and
let me write that down.
Deserve your respect.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is. I mean, for a number of different reasons. I mean, we can get into the family life, we can get into dating, we can get into financials. I mean, the same pay differential that exists across all fields definitely still exists in medicine as well, because they assume that you're going to take some time off. Actually, in medicine, because of how strenuous it is, and sometimes depending on the specialty, how many hours you have to put in, most hiring companies that hire, most hospitals actually expect you to become part-time eventually in your career, right? And so they pay you less with that expectation that eventually you're not going to be as useful to us as a male.
The business of medicine.
Exactly, that would stay in.
Competing interests.
Yeah.
And as I said, as physicians, you are a commodity. Okay, and it's becoming more and more. Don't be surprised when your favorite phone maker is involved in healthcare next. It's a commodity. It's going to be monetized. And you as patients and we as providers are not going to be at the top of that money pyramid.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's talk about TV dramas.
Yes, because I love New Amsterdam.
What are your favorite TV medical dramas? One of my favorites has been House. I haven't watched it in a while, but I love House. It's dramatic. He's obnoxious.
He is.
He's nasty.
I can't watch it because of how nasty
he is. He's brilliant. He's super smart.
Super smart, but he's too much for me.
So
I would kill him.
We could talk, because I've seen both. So House, no. Like, first of all, no physician who is that mean would remain a physician. Also, having an active...
Meaning what? He would get fired, censored, lose his job,
probably
transferred?
Definitely censored. It's not actually very easy to fire a physician. So you'd get censored a lot first, and then your service would probably get cut, and then eventually, if you kept doing it, fired. But having a drug problem, no way. And having your superiors know about it, I mean, your license would get taken. You probably never get your license again. You probably go to jail for practicing impaired. And then breaking into people's houses to go solve their medical problems, like...
It's the drama of it all. It's the drama of it all.
I get it. Like, it's entertaining, but it's not realistic in any way, shape, or form. Having, I don't even know what their specialties were, but they were doing neurosurgery, they were doing orthosurgery, they were doing every, things that it takes one person 10, 20 years to get to the point where they can do it on their own. They were doing it all, which is not the way medicine works.
So is there some branch of medicine or doctors in the hospital that tackle the conundrums that no other doctors can figure out? So then they say, here, try to figure this out. Is that completely fabricated?
The Delaware, the DMV area, there's actually the NIH. I actually discovered this when I started working in Baltimore. So there is, and I don't quote me because I don't remember the name of it, but it's like undiscoverable diseases or something along those lines, like hard to diagnose diseases. So basically, when you have an illness, I think it's in this area, like the hospitals that are in the DMV region, and I think including Delaware, when you have an illness that they can't figure out, you can, I guess, apply to be in this NIH thing where they work on it.
And that's National Institutes of Health?
Yes, I'm sorry. I keep using acronyms.
All good.
What we're talking about is when everyone's been stumped, we're putting you into research to try to synthesize.
Basically.
So, but no, these television shows, which I do not watch, they're a disservice to patients. They're great entertainment. But they're a disservice to patients because it starts to bleed into your belief that things are super easy and there's a one pill fix and there's a painless, bloodless surgery out there. And that's not reality. So then we have to deal with that on the day of reality when they show up and
demystify TV.
Yes, and they say, oh my, why does it hurt so bad? Well, sir, ma'am, because we just cut your leg in half and put a fake joint into it. They don't show you
You're
that
not going to be walking tomorrow, I'm sorry.
Right.
We do amazing things, we really do, but I think it does a disservice, and I don't have, my life with anesthesia is kind of high intensity, high acuity. I have really no interest in watching the make-believe where everyone's beautiful, everyone's sleeping with each other, everyone's, so talented. Come to work where I work and none of those things are happening.
I wish we're all as beautiful as they are.
It's the drama of it all.
It really is.
It's the drama of it all, yeah.
I do find it interesting that, the majority of your television shows at this point are involved in medicine, law enforcement, or flying dragons of some kind.
Game of Thrones.
What is this New Amsterdam show that you mentioned?
Oh yeah, New Amsterdam. New Amsterdam.
Well, it's a public hospital.
Yes.
Where they have phenomenal doctors who solve everything, but their director basically says we're gonna give care to everybody, and he doesn't really care about the business of medicine. He's more so caring about giving the care that they need. And so I think the challenge is your business wouldn't run if you made all of those decisions.
I love it. First of all, he doesn't have that much power as a medical director. It would not happen. And if he tried to do any number of the things, just pick one, his hospital will close the next day, because there is a business of medicine, and you need to be able to pay for things in order to give patients medical care.
I love it because he's so customer focused.
Exactly.
It just makes you feel so good inside.
He is the most idealistic.
Do his customers behave in kind, or are they out to blame and sue and find fault with everything?
Yeah.
They love him.
So this is really a fantasy. This is really a fantasy.
They love him. They love him.
And then also the whole fact that he has throat cancer, that's one of the worst cancers to ever have. I mean, period. Cancers run the gambit, and all of them are bad. Any type of cancer is horrific, but head and neck cancer is truly the worst type of cancer. And so the fact that they gave him that kind of malignancy, and then he's running the hospital and running around and in snowstorms, and I told my husband I'm not watching the second season because I just cannot.
But you know what it is? It's because someone who does that is very critical of it, but someone like me who's just looking, all of that can't possible.
Great entertainment.
It is.
It is. That's really what it is.
It is. Because you feel like, wow, someone has cancer.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to push through. Somebody needs that encouragement to say, I can do it. So,
right. So you brought up a great business point, lawsuits.
Yeah.
Do doctors get sued? How often do doctors get sued? Has that ever happened to you all, or at least the threat of a lawsuit? How real is that?
So the threat of lawsuits is an everyday occurrence, and for my particular specialty, people are coming into surgery, and that is each and every time something with the potential of some catastrophic outcome. So generations ago, we forget this, but generations ago, mortality was rather high for routine surgery. Now, we've improved upon that greatly, where we think of things as just casual surgery. I'm going to go in and have a C-section. I'm going to go in and get plastic surgery or get a new knee or a new hip. And we do very well. But because of that, and because of the social belief that nothing bad can happen, people can sue you over anything. Yeah, they sue you because...
Are they suing you, or are they suing the hospital, or
all the above?
Everyone gets sued.
Everyone
so
they came in contact with.
Lolita's coming into surgery today, and Mervin's your surgeon, and I'm your anesthesiologist, all of your nurses, and this is your gastroenterologist. Everyone who touched you today, everyone whose name is in the chart, is on the lawsuit, and has to actively fight to get out of it, to say, I opened that chart by mistake. I don't even know this patient. I didn't even see this patient that day. And then you get into a whole different set of circumstances about whether harm was really done, or whether anyone was negligent, and this, that, and the other thing. The ramifications of lawsuits can be immense. I remember an OB doctor delivering children here in Maryland. Their partner had 3 lawsuits over 20 years, was not found guilty in any of them, but the insurance company dropped that doctor as too high risk to insure, and they had to leave the state to go work somewhere else. And these were just somewhat frivolous accusations and lawsuits about, disgruntled people. Lawsuits are a part of medicine. I don't think they're prohibitive. We all go to work. We all do our job. We all try to do the best we can do. But there's always sitting back there the threat.
And then
when we come back, We are going to pick up on this conversation, and we're so happy to have you. Get your questions in because the segment's almost over. Now we're talking. Join us back.
Now I'm passionate.
How you going to stop me right there?
There's a rumor going around that Tyler Perry and Oprah are beefing. Well, let me tell you about this. Tyler, okay, told Oprah, bitch, if you don't have my money, we're going to have a problem. Ooh. Oprah said, what is the problem? Ooh. You said if I don't have your money, there was going to be a problem. So Oprah is standing her ground like, bitch, I'm in charge. You know, you may have a $250 million studio over there that you film all your shows and movies and stuff on, but I have the empire. That's what Oprah said.
Oh, these are her exact words. Allegedly.
I made this up. But
allegedly.
I made it all up. But there was a rumor that they were beefing. But Tyler confirms that they don't have any issues. So it says it was recently reported on the rumors that was swirling that the twosome were on the outs over constructive criticism of a Perry show. Well, I got some constructive criticism, and we can be on the outs, Tyler, and I don't give a damn because I'm gonna make a promo out of this anyway and share it to your page. I need the scenes on Have and Have Nots to be like 5% shorter, each one. I want you to watch an episode of The Young and the Restless, because this is supposed to be a soap opera. No one's dialogue on The Young and the Restless is like this. You don't have to talk about the random plant in the corner for 25 minutes on one damn scene.
They talk about random plants.
It was a blood stain on the floor for 5 episodes. I can't take it. We need to kick this up. I'm sorry. I love the Have and the Have Nots, and I continue to watch it in its 5th season. But I get so mad when I can go get myself a glass of water and come back, and he had just started the next sentence in his first paragraph. I can't stand it.
They just want to get the point across.
It's not but you don't get the point for 4 episodes. It's too much.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
How are they going to do that without? Hey, and welcome back to Now We're Talking with Lolita Walker and Mervin Bourne. We are so excited to have you, and we are jumping into all things medical. We have done some demystification. We've done some fears and doubt and women in medicine versus men in medicine.
We've talked about medical TV shows and how accurate or inaccurate they actually are.
And how drama-filled they are, and which is why we watch them in the first place.
Right.
Just everywhere. How are you guys feeling?
Good.
I want to hear more about defensive medicine.
Oh,
yes.
yeah. So
what is that?
What is
first
it?
of all?
So basically, it's practicing medicine in such a way that you won't get sued for the care that you're giving. And so kind of having it, instead of, our biggest mantra in medicine is do no harm, right? And instead of having that as kind of the focus and the forefront of your mind, still do no harm, but, if this test may be unnecessary and the chance of you having this illness is 0.0001%, but just in case you have it, and just in case you sue me for it, I'm going to order 12 things that cost $50,000 just in case. And so that's more defensive medicine, and it really isn't the right way to practice medicine. And it's something that, we even started addressing in school, where we see attendings do certain things and we're like, well, this is not necessarily a guideline, or this doesn't necessarily make sense. But typically the attendings you see that do are attendings or physicians that have been sued before. And so you kind of get this idea that, I personally never been sued, but I've only been practicing for 1 year. So, knock on every single piece of wood there is. But it kind of gives you this fear that, okay, I'm here, I'm doing my best, I'm trying to take care of people in the best way possible. Can something get missed? Your physicians are only human, and so yes, things can get missed, not on purpose. Usually, there is a different subject if negligence comes in, but I would say the majority of physicians out there are not trying to be negligent. They're trying to do their best and take care of you to the best of their ability. And so when you do get sued, I've had a lot of physicians tell me that it's a terrifying thing. I mean, everything that you've worked for up until now, all those years of training you, all the sacrifices you made could be lost on one case that may or may not have merit. And one theme I've been told is that the lawyers don't care. They do not care what the truth is. They just care about what they can prove, and if they can prove that you could have thought of something else that you didn't think of, you know. And so, and it kind of comes into the way we practice medicine too, with charting, right? So I mentioned before that even though you may not see your doctor multiple times a day, your doctor knows everything that's going on. Part of that is because we are sitting there writing notes. I mean, I work 12-hour shifts, and probably out of my 12-hour shift, at least 7 of it, you know, is sitting writing down everything I discussed with you that day, every lab I saw, every image I saw, and why I did it. Because what happens is, if you ever do get sued, that's what they use, and if you didn't write it down, it did not happen. Exactly. And so
that leads to a phenomenon known as chart wars, which is where multiple doctors who are taking care of you, if you disagree and can't come to an agreement, I'm going to write a note saying one thing, she's going to write a note saying another. We're going to keep going back and forth every day with these notes in this defensive mindset where if this gets to be reviewed,
it's like a CYA, basically.
I'm saying this, and this is the proper way to cover it, and they're not taking my recommendations. So when there comes to be blame, and
it ain't me.
It's not me. And now this is obviously something we're trying to get out of medicine, but it's very real, and I've seen it. And
you'll say, per the cardiologist, they want to do this, you know. And so if something happens, hey, you know, and it's not really that's what you want, but it's the truth. You don't want to lose everything you have based on this issue, and so.
How do you hear a lot, hey, I want a second opinion? What I find is that people just don't know. Sometimes there's so much information coming at you that you're writing it down as the patient. So now I'm on WebMD, now I'm on Google, now I'm on Wikipedia, I'm on all these places. What would you tell me if I don't understand something that's happening in the doctor's office?
Honestly, I don't hear, I want a second opinion enough.
And I was going to ask, is it offensive? Because my first instinct, and I've asked for one before, but very infrequently, but my first instinct is that I don't want to offend the doctor. And that's probably, a lot of people probably
versus
think
you,
that.
like versus let me take care of me and be it,
Right.
Doctors are people. You can't predict. Some will be offended and some won't, right? I mean, it's a relationship, and that's a whole nother thing where I think patients and doctors who shouldn't be paired together need to go and find another doctor or another patient. And some do it. The good ones that I know do that. They'll recommend, you know what, you should go get a second opinion because we don't seem to be seeing eye to eye, and I'm not going to take you into surgery if we're not on the same page. So second opinions, I think legitimate second opinions are valuable. I think that Googling your symptom of a headache to find out what's wrong with you is not very helpful because all roads lead to cancer and catastrophe, and then you come in a panic, you know, because you had a headache or you bumped your knee and forgot about it. But I think that second opinions are terrific, and I think that investigating alternatives is also very valuable. We do things a certain way here in our country, in our state, in our region, but that doesn't mean it's the only way. And there are other effective ways that are being utilized around the world. And I think that, you know, being your own advocate as a patient can pay off. It's valuable.
And I think you should always be your biggest advocate, right? Because your physician may know everything in your chart, but if you don't know it, it's useless. You know, I've had patients who have a litany of medical issues, and they're like, oh, but call my doctor. But you have, this is your life, this is your health. You should have some ownership. And medical talk, medical care is oftentimes very complex, especially if you have multiple issues. But, you know, demanding kind of, and in a very, very nice way, but kind of advocating for yourself and saying, hey, I need to know what's going on with my health, because that way I can be better invested. If I know why I'm taking this medication, if you take the time to explain it to me, I'll more than likely take the medication instead of just something you're giving me a pill to take for no reason. And then if you don't get along with your doctor, get a new one. I've never really understood why people stay, with a physician that they don't see eye to eye with or don't like. You'll get a new mechanic if you don't like them. You'll get a new doctor. You typically, we have insurance companies that have a certain network of physicians, right? So just call them and say, hey, who else can I see? And so
one of the things you just tapped on made me think about telling your doctor the truth. I really believe that your doctor, especially your primary care physician, really needs to know everything. So if you are taking a drug, you got to let them know, because the prescription that they give you might interact with that. Yeah. So
there's so many moving parts in that, because again, patients are people, and some people's approach is, I don't want to know, and some doctors, as we've talked about, they have a panel of patients they need to talk to that day, and so you dumb down what you're saying to a least common denominator to make it easily digestible, but it's dangerous at times. I go in and I ask patients, what's your medical history? And I had a patient that I can remember now, I said, do you have any heart problems, any lung problems? No. He had a heart transplant. Wow. But in his mind,
everything was good now.
It's all fixed now, but it was a lack of understanding about what all of these immunosuppressant medications are doing to his body, what the ramifications of this were. All he knew was, I was sick, my heart was bad, I got a new one, I'm good to go. Yeah. And clearly that's a breakdown where his doctors haven't taken the time or had the opportunity or taken the opportunity to speak with him in a way that he understands what's going on with his health in such a way where he can advocate for it. So fortunately we picked that up, but if I had gone into that not knowing that pretty crucial bit of information, we could have gotten ourselves into trouble. So it's a lot of moving parts.
So what can you say about the intersection between what's considered Western medicine and maybe what's considered Eastern medicine, or medicine as it's practiced outside of the United States? Does that come into your training in medical school? Are you cautioned against it? Are you taught to embrace it? Do you get pushback from your patients regarding them wanting to introduce non-Western medical practices?
Holistic medicine is big now.
I'd say it's not much of an intersection at all yet. It's more parallel, and that's driven by our system. Our healthcare system is not really prone to pay for non-traditional Westernized techniques, medicines, and things like that. Patients are very open to it. The cannabis movement, driven largely by patients. Holistic medicine and cures and things, driven largely by patients. At GW, we had an integrative medicine rotation, which I took. You can do a lot of holistic healing type of medicines, everything from basic things to music therapy, listening to music and changing moods and positivity, going into procedures, to Reiki and acupuncture and all kinds of things, which are effective. But our system doesn't have that flexibility yet. So, you really see it. I encourage it, but it's very difficult for patients. If you come in and you're sick, and you want to try a non-traditional technique, a lot of times you find that you're on your own and not supported. In
terms of financially,
by that beloved health insurance of yours, they're not interested. So now you're out of pocket, or you find yourself traveling to other countries to try to get health care, that you can afford. So hopefully we get more of an intersection, but right now I think they're pretty divergent.
And I will say, not financially, but because we're not trained on it, we can't necessarily recommend it. So I'll have patients come in and show me this bottle of something, and I'm like, I have no clue.
What that is.
I can Google it just like you can Google it, but that's we're equal on that type of information. And so, can I recommend it? I cannot. I can recommend this pill from this pharmaceutical company because that's what I know. That's what I was trained on. And so, other couple of things with that is that we are, so in my residency program, I did a lot of clinics at the VA. And so the VA actually is making a lot of strides towards holistic medicine. And so because it's a single payer system, they actually do offer yoga, they offer acupuncture, they offer massages.
What's a single payer system?
Sorry. So single payer system is basically the government, the VA, the Veterans Affairs, pays for all veterans' healthcare. Gotcha. And so they only have one payer, which is the U.S. government, versus multiple payer systems, which is what all of us have, which is like Blue Cross Blue Shield,
Kaiser, whatever.
All those other payers. That's a multiple payer system, which we all have. So your insurance company can choose to cover acupuncture, and your insurance company could just laugh at you when you ask.
Right.
You know? And that's up to them depending on what they want to cover. And so the VA, at least the Veterans Affairs, they are at least moving towards that. And it's really more for pain management because so many of that population, we really don't do well with pain management.
And we're creating drug addiction.
Yeah,
exactly. And so they've started looking for other avenues in order to treat that. And then as far as, so I did an international rotation in Guatemala, and one of the things that the very, very first things they did was have us sit down and do a cultural awareness class where they kind of made it clear that, hey, you practice Western medicine, but that does not mean we in this country, in this nation, do not have our own medicine. And over there, they do amazing things where they actually practice like learning about plants. And so a lot of their population is poor. They don't have any insurance, like a lot of patients that are insured. And so you may come in and you may be able to afford aspirin, or you can actually just go to your garden and steep them a tea and then give it to them and say, hey, take this tea 3 times a day. And they actually learn that in medical school. And it's things that we don't learn. For example, aspirin is just willow tree. You know, it's willow tree leaves and willow tree bark. That's all aspirin is. And the pharmaceutical company finds that out, and then they test it through their labs. They do all that stuff, and then they figure it out. When I was doing research at University of Pennsylvania, I studied this medication called silymarin, which is milk thistle. And milk thistle is something that's been used since Egyptian times for different remedies. And so a pharmaceutical company got wind of this and said, hey, does it really work? And so they had a national study done across the country where they tested it in different populations to see if it would work. This was specifically for hepatitis C. And they found out it didn't work. But if it did work, that's the same medication you would take and pay $1,000 a pill for. And it's literally growing by the side of the highway. And so there is merit to herbal medicine. There is merit to holistic medicine. We just don't study it because it's not, I think, as profitable, to be honest.
Absolutely.
And so,
and that's why we don't see it.
And that's why we don't see it.
You know, my family is Jamaican, and a lot of times if something's going on, a cold, I'll call and go to my aunt's garden, and they know there's a tea for everything, right? You're Caribbean as well. There is. So I love it.
And so I know it.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So I'm gonna call you next time I'm sick too.
Because I'm always
and I'll just call my mom.
Have her write it down. I love it.
Well, as much medicine as I give every day, when I am down with a cold, my wife makes me a tea. She's an original African American woman by way of Zimbabwe, and I feel better.
I'm telling you, there's something in the leaves. There's something in the leaves.
And I will say something we didn't mention is the difference between MDs and DOs. We didn't get into that. So there's allopathic medicine, osteopathic. DOs, how do I explain DOs? So basically there's medical doctors. It's the same 4-year training that you get, but you get a different degree at the end. And that's mainly because DOs, they practice this type of, I actually forget the name of what they call it. It's a I want to say it's like a mix between
medicine.
Not truly. They practice like different musculoskeletal points, and I'm so sorry for any DOs out there. Please don't kill me. But they practice.
I didn't even know there was a DO, so I'm learning something today.
And a lot of people don't know about it. And it is, they have their own medical schools. They're very, very prominent, and they're excellent physicians. But they do practice at least one type of medicine where it's more hands-on. It's almost like trigger points where you go into their office and you have a certain ailment, and they do things with like mapping out nerves and mapping out muscles where they would do maneuvers on you to ease certain ailments. And so that's one type of medicine that's recognized in America. Unfortunately, from what I've been told by my DO colleagues, they don't actually practice it as much because in our system, when you have 10 minutes per patient, per visit, you can't really do all those maneuvers like you would do in training the way you would want to do it. But they do. That's a type of holistic medicine that is out there that is acknowledged. It's just not practiced as much. But
where do
DOs are great
chiropractors fit in? Is that part of, okay. So I don't know, but I will tell you that I have a friend who had allergies and said she was cured from everything from a chiropractor. And I went in for a massage of reflexology at one point, and I swear they touched some point on my foot and it went into something up here. It was the greatest. So I believe it in a great way. Great way. So when we come back, we are all, can you believe the hour is almost over when fun happens? So we'll do some recapping when we come back, kind of give you guys the nuggets for those of you guys that are just joining. And we're so happy to have you. So now we're talking with Mervin A Born and Lolita E. Walker.
We'll be right back. Stick with us, please. Now we're talking.
First they love you, then desert you. Leave with a plate full with no spoon. Ain't no space, I can't escape negativity. I got used to the taste. I've been bad, burned, then fucked over. But remain strong through the past over. Kicking haters out of the way like mast over. Roll up, sip something, let it pass over. Who would I be? It ain't a man to me to let the next man take advantage of me. When that storm come, don't pan I see. Get with it, not without it, then you'll see. I peep the haters, they know I'm greater. That's why they buzzing for the elevator. But I can't save you, the weed too loud on the pedal stool. Don't carry fakers, always got your hand out demanding favors. When I just looked out, now you need more paper. I can't breathe, give me 3 feet. I never let y'all be the death of me. When my patient run
well, Jason, I've got to tell you, you're pretty much everything this company is looking for in an entry-level candidate.
Great.
Your resume isn't quite what we're used to, but you've got a fantastic work ethic.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have no way of recruiting or even meeting you. This interview didn't happen.
It may sound ridiculous, and that's because it kind of is. There's a huge pool of talent your company is missing out on. Meet the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Man, we really could have used him.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Hey, welcome back to Now We're Talking with Mervin A. Born and Lolita E. Walker. We have had such a phenomenal show. So we have Dr. Justin Black, and we also have Dr.
Adeyemo.
Adeyemo. I was getting there. I feel like you thought I was going to mess up. I've been practicing the whole show.
I just got your back, that's all.
Yeah, that's
always,
don't leave me
at all
tonight.
times.
Don't leave me hanging. Okay, I love it. So we've had such an exciting show, all in about the business of medicine. And we really got in about the business of medicine. So as always, we leave you with the coolest acronym known to man to talk about all of our topics. We're going to leave you with some nuggets from medicine, MEDICINE.
Not just any nuggets, now we're talking nuggets.
Now we're talking nuggets. And you know what? I promise to get those up this week.
It's going to happen.
It's happening. It's happening. Make your patient-doctor relationship one that is based on truth. Tell your doctor what's going on with you so that they can make the best diagnosis. Educate yourself. Truly educate. So Google's okay, but don't forget it doesn't have MD at the end, right? Or DO.
Very true.
All right. Demystify your thoughts. Ask your doctor about your concerns. So really use your voice. You really tapped into that, which is awesome, and something that we talk about on the show all the time. Instincts are real. If you feel a vibe, go elsewhere. If you and your doctor aren't vibing, then look inside the network and find someone else to go to. It's okay. Consider alternatives. It's okay to try alternative medicine. So look into it. Investigate alternatives. I might have just said that. Network. Build your network by using your voice and finding mentors that's out there. And then engage yourself in your own health. You've got to be your own advocates. That's where we are, medicine, right? So leave any questions that you still have. Thank you, Mr. Tim Green. Great show, very useful info. Thank you. We appreciate everybody for joining in. And we're just going to go down. If you want to leave our guests with anything at all, any one nugget that we might not have touched on, feel free.
I want to talk about the instincts.
Yes.
And, you know, having a good doctor-patient relationship. Just because your doctor doesn't tell you anything negative doesn't mean that's a good relationship. Some people feel so reassured because they don't want to. It's like, you know, see no evil, hear no evil. You have to be honest, and if it's not being genuine, you need to go somewhere else. If you've got a doctor who's always just not challenging you and giving you things that you want to hear, that's not going to serve you well in the long run.
Yes.
I guess I would say about the first one, being truthful to your doctor as well. So when we're engaged in a doctor-patient relationship, I'm not here to judge you. So if you have a drug problem, if you are engaged in extramarital sex, whatever it is that you may be embarrassed about, ashamed about, whatever, if it has to do with your health, let your physician know, because that way they can actually help you to get better. Lying to your physician does not help anyone, especially not you. And so there's no reason, of course you're talking to another individual, so you might be a little bit embarrassed, but it's not a judgment question. It's just a question of how can we help you to get better. And so that would be my thing.
I love it. And so I'm going to leave you with who I am, then Mervin's going to leave you with who he is, how to get in touch with us, and then we have 2 special shout outs that we're going to say right at the end. So I'm Lolita Walker. I am an author of The Intersection of You and Change, which definitely can be purchased at Barnes & Noble's, Amazon, and on lolitawalker.com. I'm a certified life and executive coach, and we talked here about taking time for you and how women especially struggle with the taking time for them without guilt, especially in professional environments where it's really demanding. So with that being said, I have a women's retreat that's coming up September 19th through the 22nd that I definitely want to invite you to. You can look at it at lolitawalker.com, and I'm taking payments. It's only an hour from DC in Purcellville, and it is 4 days of truly recentering and rejuvenating you. So I'll also tell you about that information as well.
Okay. And you can find me on my website at mervinborn.com. You can also email us to the show at nowwe'retalkinglive@gmail.com. I'm also the author of A Single Mother's Guide to Raising a Son, which you can get on Amazon.com in both paperback version as well as Kindle or ebook. I also, too, will be hosting a men's retreat in the 4th quarter of 2019. Stay tuned for details about that.
Yes, excellent. So we have 2 shout outs. The first is Miss Keisha Gustave, who was our winner worth celebrating. Keisha was able to tell us on our Now We're Talking page 2 of the shows that most impacted her. And thank you for joining, Keisha. I hope you're on tonight. So you are a winner.
Big shout out to Keisha.
Big shout out. Thank you. And also Brianna Talia on my Instagram page was on for Be Free Fridays and is winning a t-shirt from Walker & Walker Enterprises. I am enough and I am worthy. I am me. So our 2 big shout outs. And Miss Vanessa Gray, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you.
And everyone that tuned in tonight, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Adrian, Jamie, everyone else, too many people to name,
Lamar
but thank you very
here.
much.
Can I shout out my sister?
Yes,
Her birthday.
Yes.
Oh, happy birthday.
So her birthday is May 28th. So happy birthday to me and my brother-in-law, whose birthday is tomorrow. Happy birthday, Dokun.
Yes, happy birthday. And your husband's here, Wahid. So we appreciate this.
Best husband ever.
Everyone's watching.
All right, well, join in next week. We'll send some information. So share. Great info we shared tonight on the business of medicine.
Yeah.
All right, talk later and see you next week.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Our pleasure.
See you next week on Now We're Talking with Mervin and Lolita.
The Artist Exchange Radio Show every Friday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., every Saturday, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Real artist, real talk, real live on BeExposedRadio.com.
I was meeting with a friend yesterday, and I've gotten to the point where don't ask me a question because the truth is going to come out. Exactly. Just don't do it.
If you ain't looking for the truth, don't come to me.
Don't do it because I can't hold my tongue, and she wants to be